So it is just taken this little thing that I really didn't notice, and it has exploded.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the times are changing, but it has gotten so much worse.
Right.
I mean, horribly worse, and I don't know why.
Welcome back, guys, to episode 19 of Cases and Cocktails. I'm here again with my beautiful wife, Janice. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Today, Janice, we've got Suzanne Radcliffe. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Super glad to have you here. By the way, Suzanne, just so y'all know, Suzanne is out of Galveston County.
Galveston,
right? South. And she's come to join us today, and we're super happy to have you.
Thank you.
It is Cases and Cocktails, so we start this with a cocktail. You good with that?
I'm good.
All right, Jay, what we got?
Easy today, just a cucumber margarita.
Cucumber Margarita. Let's try that. There we go. Perfect.
It's very refreshing.
Oh,
I like that one.
I do that all day. Suzanne, you is there a particular adult beverage that you like?
Probably vodka and tonics and nothing fancy.
Nothing
but
fancy, yeah.
I don't ever get a chance to drink these fancy drinks. I think I'm going to like them, though. But then I won't be able to make them.
Well, that's true. That's
that'll
true.
be a problem.
I'm a big fan of tequila, so I'm good with this one.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, Suzanne. And by the way, I want to kind of address something here. You served as an associate judge for how long?
17 years.
17 years in Galveston?
Galveston County, yep.
Galveston County. Is it okay that I call you Suzanne? Do I need to call you Judge?
No, call me Suzanne.
All right. I don't want to get in trouble.
No.
I sometimes get in trouble, and so I want to try to avoid that. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. You, when you served as an associate judge, tell me, first of all, how did you get into that? Is that something you wanted to do? Did you get appointed or?
I was appointed.
Okay.
I started out as a child abuse prosecutor in Galveston County.
Okay.
So that was kind of what I was familiar with. And back in 1997, when they started the child welfare specific courts.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I don't know
CPS.
CPS courts. The judge that I don't know if I was friends with her. I didn't think she liked me, but she was a family law. I guess she kind of did. She was a family court judge. And she took me aside and said, hey, we're starting this program. I need an associate judge that's going to be doing CPS, but you're going to also be doing family law and protective orders. Kind of, would you be interested? And I was like, wow.
Wow, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
So that's how I got into it.
How long had you been practicing before that?
I was licensed in 91.
About 6 years, yeah.
I was with the DA's office,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
not really in the civil realm of it.
Was it, I'm just curious, how steep was that learning curve?
It was different. I mean, there's a couple of times when the judges would say, you're in civil court, not criminal.
Right.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
But
You since then now you've been in private practice,
Yes.
and you do just family law.
I do just family law. I do a little bit of guardianships and maybe probate, but generally family law, yes.
Okay. That means you've got some sort of mental health issue like me and Janice for just choosing to do that.
Yes. My friends are like, are you crazy?
Yes.
It's a little bit
Yes,
of
we are, right?
Yes, it's a
Glutton
little
for
bit.
punishment.
Yes,
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. It is. It's Parental Alienation Month in April, and I want to talk a little bit about PA, and particularly I want to talk about parental alienation, a couple of different things. You've got a really unique insight because you were on the bench and you got to hear these types of cases, right?
Yep.
Tell me, do you recall the first time you heard this, this being argued or presented to you?
I would probably say mid 2000,
Right.
2007, 2008.
Yeah.
It started kind of popping up. But before that, obviously when you're on you see it.
Right.
You're going, it didn't have a name or whatever,
Right.
but you're like, so I was seeing it.
Right.
It
You
didn't
said
just start.
Something's wrong with that.
Something's wrong with this scenario,
Right. Yeah.
But I would say it started becoming a thing in like mid 2008, 2007-ish.
Throughout the time on your bench, were you in a position where you had to hear the facts and determine is this parental alienation or it's not? Is that?
Not specifically. I didn't have to make findings because, as you know, I was an associate judge.
As an AJ,
which means, they can appeal me to to my boss.
De novo you.
Yeah,
and
de
take
novo
you.
you, but which is pretty abusive to that situation.
Right.
But so I didn't have to make a finding. But yes, I heard it, and so I would base my decisions, or that's a factor in deciding.
Right.
Because as you know, in temporary orders, that's very important because within a month of your case, you're going to know who gets temporary custody.
Exactly.
Right? So what that decision that AJ makes is so important. It sets the stage for the whole case.
It does set the stage, and it sets sort of what the status quo is going to be.
Yep.
Right. Moving
exactly.
forward.
Because I tell my clients, dump all your money in that preparation for that.
Yeah.
Because that's really what you need to prepare for.
It sets the tone for the rest of the case.
It does.
How did you handle the stress of having to make those decisions?
As I was going through a divorce too.
Oh, wow.
Your
A
own
bad
personal-
divorce,
well,
but
there you go.
no, we actually got along for our kids, But it was stressful
Yeah.
because because I had two small children at the time. You just have to decompress when you get home. I was a big workout person.
Yeah.
I played tennis, and you
Bigger
just
things.
you do a lot of socializing outside just to kind of try to forget it.
Yeah.
It's tough because it's kids. Like I would rather hear property cases all day long because I would be like,
It's a math problem,
It is.
right? It's a
It
math
is.
problem.
It
And
is,
with
and-
kiddos, it's the social sciences, it's the soft stuff, and it's
Exactly.
it's difficult. Yeah,
It's hard.
Tell me, in your time on the bench, you've got oftentimes you got attorneys that are there to present these cases.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have opportunities to have a situation where you've got pro se litigants involved and they're trying to prove that? I can only imagine that's got to be extremely difficult.
Can you imagine? I understand what they're trying to get out, but if there's another attorney on the other side, of course, they're objecting, and
Right.
and I have to rule per the law and
Right.
say, "Sir, ma'am, I know you're trying to do." I knew what they were trying to do, but it was really hard for them to get it across. I knew what they were trying to do, but to get into the evidence was hard.
We talk about this. We talk about this a lot here on the podcast, and how how y'all can help each other and try to go in there and do it. But it's so difficult because even when you've got the experience, you've gone to the CLEs, you've got the science, right? You've got the research. It's still difficult to do it. And if you don't have all those things and you're trying to do it, it's almost impossible.
Exactly. It's hard. It's hard because obviously it's an adversarial system. So
Right.
you always have the other side saying, "Are you no?
Right,
It's
right.
your client," or they're just saying, "No, that's untrue."
Right.
So you have that basis
Yeah.
on that.
You add the layer of it being your personal life, so you've got the emotional aspect
Exactly.
of it.
Right.
It's hard for people to pull that away.
To pull that away and compartmentalize that.
It's
right?
hard for me sometimes to
Right.
do it.
Exactly.
Right. I gotta ask. Now that you're in private practice, do you approach things differently, knowing that you'd been on the bench already? Like I say that because I'll set the stage, right? So I've never been on the bench, and Lord knows no one will ever let me up there. And so I think even during an adoption one time, they let everyone go back and take pictures, but they wouldn't let me. That's another thing.
Cut you off.
Made them nervous.
Yeah, I don't blame them. But my point is, so for me, when I approach a presentation, my approach is, okay, I'm trying to do this. This is who I'm trying it to. And I've got some understanding or some insights, or I've been in front of this judge before and I kind of know, but I don't know the totality of what's going on there. You, on the other hand, you've got the insight. You've been up there. You've been in the position of having to make these decisions. How does that sort of change the way you present cases?
Probably it makes me less aggressive on cross-examination. I try to bring out the facts more neutrally, instead of attacking. Right. That's probably really changed my litigation skills. I really try to I really try to make a story. So like when I prepare my client, this is a theme. Right. Okay, we're going to concentrate on that. Let's tell a story. Right. And let's keep it short and simple because the judges don't want to hear all this stuff. Like they don't want to hear that they went out and spent $10,000 and they weren't supposed to and that kind of stuff. Because let's not talk about that. We're talking about kids. And I always say, we got to talk about what you do with your children. Let's get real specific, what your relationship is like during the marriage. Right. Like 3 months ago, you were fine because I'm assuming, maybe not fine, but divorce wasn't filed. Or I say, last year, What was the family dynamics? Let's talk about that a little bit. So the judge kind of gets a picture. And then fast forward, now divorce is filed. What's changed with your relationship with your children?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll say this. I told a judge the other day that I know that I'm being dramatic. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it for a purpose, right? Yeah. And so I can appreciate that insight of saying there's a different way of doing that. That's impressive. I like that. Do you ever find yourself standing there going, Judge, I've done this before. I've been up there. You find yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of grace, maybe. And
yeah. I mean, like just interpreting things and the way, yes. Yeah. I'm always like, So you kind of have to go, can I get out the family code?
Right.
Maybe very discreetly,
right. Well,
unless the laws change.
Well, right. Well, and that actually brings up a really good point. I'm glad you said that. And this is a difficult conversation. The purpose of this is not to say you did it right and the current judges are doing it wrong or anything like that. That's not what this is. But I think you brought up a really good point, though, of how do you approach the court with grace and with respect, right? Particularly in these high conflict cases, these parental alienation cases, and explain to them kind of what's going on when they're doing things or not picking up on the pieces, the data that you're sort of laying in that presentation, how you do it. Is there a way that you particularly do it, or you just kind of do it on an ad hoc basis of trying to be graceful with the court?
It depends on the court. You have to measure that temperature. And like I said, I tell a story. I have the beginning of my story my client tells. I have the middle, and then I have the ending. Yeah. And I always look at judges' faces because I was told on the bench I had very big expressions, like either like, or, oh, that's interesting. So I kind of would watch that. Yeah. And if I noted the judge might be leaning in more, I would kind of go into that. Or if we took a break, I'd go, okay, I saw the judge when you said this. Let's kind of go into that more.
Right.
So you just kind of have to watch the judge.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you got to watch her staff too, because judges, they talk. Everyone talks like, oh my God, that's a horrible person or whatever, So you kind of have to watch how they're reacting, what they're saying when your client on the other side is getting on the stand.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll tell you, I had a case one time. It was during COVID, so we're on Zoom. And we're on Zoom. We're having this hearing. And the court was not on camera. Mm-hmm. The judge was there. You could hear the judge.
It was just audio with a black screen.
You could hear the judge, audio, but there was no video.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Exactly.
I don't have that answer.
I thought you kind of had to be.
But I'm going to tell you this right now. It was the most disturbing presentation I've ever given in my entire life, because it's like, I don't know if I'm doing well, if I'm doing terrible. I don't know if the court is interested or not.
Still there?
You had
listening at all.
You had no feedback, and so it's so important in that presentation, right? We were. It was a difficult case, and it was a difficult thing, and we had different sort of points that we were trying to make, but I could never figure out if I was making any headway. And so it's sort of, you're just kind of like, okay, well, I have this plan, and I'm just going to do it. And we all litigate, and you've been on the bench. Litigation, you may have a plan, and in 5 minutes, that plan is out the door, right? I mean,
you got to be able to switch gears quick.
Not going to work.
Right. This,
or the judge says, "I'm not going to hear any of that. That's inadmissible or not relevant." And you're like, "Oh, that was my whole case."
Right. You take the entire thing and set it aside. Right. It's the Mike Tyson approach. Right. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Right. So, for me, I can see that, and I can see, kind of. I think you get a unique insight because you've seen that and you've been up there. You know what it's like. Tell me, currently, you've got clients that you're seeing. I don't want to talk about specifics, but I assume you've got PA cases and high conflict cases. Yeah,
I mean, I have right now literally 4. Yeah. I mean, that are really, really bad. Of course, I'm representing the target parent. I mean, 2 of them are. So kind of both. So you have to switch sides, right? Because, so you're switching gears. But I want to say that when I was on the bench, I talked to so many children. Because, I don't know if I could keep count, but so I'd hear evidence, right? And one parent would come in and say, "What a horrible other parent! This is what they've done," and I know my child's going to go in there and tell the judge they want to live with me. I'm like, okay. I go back there, and the kid totally the opposite.
Really?
You know, oh, my mom doesn't do that. My dad does that, or vice versa.
Interesting.
You know, and then they say, no, I don't want to live with my mom. I live, you know, but opposite of what the party bringing them to.
Right. Is saying
Do you think when the kids came in, did they seem like they were comfortable with you right
Yes,
away?
yes.
Why do you think that is?
Because I was a lot younger back then too. So they used to draw pictures of Judge Judy. So that's what they would see on TV.
Yeah.
And I think because I was younger, you know, and they just, I don't know, they just related to me. I had young kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I sit and talk to them and talk about school and what sports they do and just kind of hang out, your brothers, what your room look like. And,
You got on their level. That's
Then
great.
you have to kind of zero in, you know, kind of have a whole day. And I never was like, okay, I got to go. You know, because I always gave them as much time to make them feel as comfortable as they could.
so they could be heard?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be like, you know, I need to go. And you just kind of have to go into, okay, let's talk about, you know, your parents are getting separated,
Right.
you know, people at school. And then you kind of go into that. And they just tell me the opposite of what I just heard. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's your dad. You know, that's the most, I don't think lawyers know that.
No.
No, we don't, because we never
right.
know what happens.
You know,
and I think that's good. I don't think we should know.
Right.
I don't think we should be back there. I
And your
don't think
client
it
should
be
know.
recorded.
It should be
Right.
freedom for the child to say, because it's about them.
Right.
So let me
Right.
tell you what's really happening. And then sometimes you hear it more exaggerated. Like you could tell that parent had talked to them and said,
Right.
make sure you tell them this. And, you know, it's like, well, I only get one meal a day, you know. And, you know, that, you know, like it really exaggerated.
Right.
So if you go into it with kids, you know, they kind of get tripped up like, I think, you know, like, God, no, I was supposed to say that. But now I'm like, yeah, you know, I did get, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
I got extra meals that day.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's and you can definitely tell the children that have been talked to by the parent.
Yeah.
The ones that are prepped and the ones that are using borrowed language.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
got to tell you one of the harder things that we deal with, or I deal with at least, is litigation, in litigation, and as a litigator, is, you know, explaining to a client that there's no control over the kiddo, and oftentimes it's not just that my client wants the child to talk to the court. Sometimes the other side does, and sometimes both of them do. But the idea and the concept is that with litigation, I can control my witnesses and control my client. I can prep them. I can do the things. I can put together the presentation, the theme, the story, the whole nine, do stuff. But then there's this wild card, who's this kid, and you know, in the courts, respectfully and rightfully so, you know, as you kind of pointed out, Jay, you know, rightfully so too, is, you know, we don't want people prepping the kid or talking to the kid or engaging in this. But then people want the kid to come do it and then come talk to the judge. And then it's like we have no insight as to what that kid is going to, not just what they said, but what they
You really
could
don't.
say.
I mean, you
right?
really don't.
And so it's a difficult thing. It's interesting. Did you do any specific, I'm just curious, any training, anything to talk to kids? You just use your own personal experiences? And,
No, you just, I mean, they don't give that, I mean, they didn't back in the time when you went to judge
Right.
school, you know?
Right.
I don't know what year it was. Do you remember the year when all you had, if you're a child over the age of 12, you bring the child in, they would sign that document.
An affidavit. They signed an
affidavit.
right.
And that's it, done.
That was done, yeah.
The judge never talked to them
Yeah.
or whatever. So when the law came out where the kid would go into court, at first, I thought, yeah, that's kind of bringing the kid in the
To a courtroom? Oh,
Literally
yeah, we
into
hear
the
about it
middle of
all
it.
the time. Yeah.
You know?
100%.
So I really didn't know how I felt about that. But
Yeah.
as a judge listening to the child, you really get to know the dynamics of the family
Right.
without them telling other parent, because they're just saying, this is from the eyes of a kid, this is what's happening. And they're so smart and they see and absorb
Right.
so much stuff.
Right.
So
I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want you to tell any specifics about cases, obviously, but I think it's interesting. You know, it's Parental Alienation Month, and we're talking about PA.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes you'll get a target or a favored parent,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say, "Hey, I want the kiddo to talk to the judge because they've you know,
Coached.
they've coached, brainwashed,
Right.
whatever word you want to use." And the kid comes to talk to you. Obviously, they're going to say what the favorite parent is. Did you ever have an opportunity to have that happen, and you look at the kid and you know that kid is being alienated, that's subjected to the stuff?
of course.
How did you handle that?
I mean, you have to just kind of ask more questions, but not, you know, really inquiring too much.
Right.
Like, you know, oh, well, have you talked to your aunt about that?
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
right.
or, you know, did you talk to your friends? I mean, you just kind of have to go around and kind of get it
Kind
back
of back into all the pieces,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
obvious.
it really is. And like that's what was so ironic. Here's a parent marches their kid in. They're going to say they want to live with me.
Right.
And, I thought, okay, well, maybe. And I heard everything that person said on the stand.
Right.
And you hear the other parent going, I don't do that. That's never happened. And they come, in my office and totally opposite. Just like, wow, whatever coaching they didn't work or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I know different attorneys have different approaches for this, but do you ever talk to the kids in cases now?
never.
We don't either.
Yeah,
I don't ever, and I can tell when the other like that. When I was on the bench, oh yeah, I talked to Mr. Smith, the lawyer, and I'd always be like,
it's always weirded me out. I've had other attorneys that are like, well, have you talked to the kid? And I'm like,
Absolutely
No.
not, and I
Like-
won't.
no, why?
right, yeah, like no, I don't have any inclination to talk to your child. More importantly, I wouldn't even know what to tell your child,
Exactly.
right? Because I'm a litigator,
Yeah.
right? Sandra, I guess Sandra in a space could do that.
Yeah, it has to
but
be therapeutic,
right?
because you're not a counselor,
right? But I'm not engaging that, and you've never done that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Same thing down there in Galveston County. Galveston County, a little bit different than Central Texas and some stuff. Do you see a lot of PA cases down there now?
I mean, I don't know because I've never seen any data on it, percentages.
Right. But just in your experience,
I can just tell you this. So I've been licensed since '91.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it's gotten, whatever you call it,
Yeah.
it has gotten so much worse through
Right.
the years. And then now we have social media.
Right.
So, you have a parent harassing, targeting, saying bad stuff on social media.
Right.
And you have kids reading it.
Right.
And their friends reading, oh, I didn't know your mom did that.
Right,
and
right.
that kind of, so it is just taken this little thing that I really didn't notice
Right.
and it has exploded.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the, times are changing, but it has gotten so much worse.
Right.
I mean, horribly worse, and I don't know why.
Do y'all have a lot of professionals down there that y'all use? Or
We
is-
don't. Like I was just talking to Dr. Alvarez because she used to be in our area. She used to be the only professional.
Really?
Like, oh yeah,
in the area that would do it.
Houston. I'm talking Harris
yeah,
County.
yeah.
I'm talking Fort Bend. I'm talking like she was so popular.
Right.
And I was in court the other day and someone said, oh, is Dr. Alvarez still practicing? And everyone's like, no, I think, she's retired. And I was just telling her, everyone thinks she retired. But no, there's really not.
Yeah.
And we don't have that many, child therapists. We don't have that many reunification therapists. It's really, no, we don't.
And that's a difficult space. One, that's a difficult space as the attorney because you need these people to help.
Right.
It's a difficult space as the attorney also because you need these people to be a part of the solution, right?
Yeah.
The early intervention, get them in there, get family systems approaches going and doing the things. You need all that. But then I can only imagine it's got to be extremely difficult for the bench
Right.
because they have to say,
It
okay,
is.
who are we going to get?
Yeah.
And you go as the attorney, you're like, well, I don't have anybody. And I've been in the courtroom.
Yeah.
I've been in the courtroom where
Exactly.
the judge is like, who do you want to use? And I'm like, I don't have anybody. And,
Yeah.
OC doesn't have anybody. And the judge is like doing this, right? And we're Googling, right, to try to
Yeah.
figure that out, right?
I've been
and
there.
it's,
Yep.
yeah. So how do y'all navigate? You just do it?
I mean, there's a handful of therapists
Yeah.
that are good. I mean, I can't even name all a reunification therapist off my head, top of my head, but children. I know y'all going to have children for tomorrow and later.
Yeah.
I kind of just discovered them. I kind of fell into that 6 months ago.
Right.
Love them.
Right.
I think it's a great program. I looked at the protocol.
Right.
Because I can't. If I went to the other attorney and said, "Hey, let's do this."
right.
That's
right.
I'm telling you, that's the way it is in South Texas. I mean,
Yeah.
in my experience of it.
They
And
just dismiss it.
yeah,
They say
but
no.
that's junk science,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had the protocol, and that I got, and it explains it, and the national data and everything, and most attorneys are like, wow, I didn't know this existed.
Yeah. The education piece is still necessary.
Yeah, it really, really is, and I don't know why we don't do more educating. And
It's I've been doing this since 2010 is when we graduated. Licensed in 2010. I've been doing it since, and I've come to find out that's really the bar for a lot of this. Whether it's the bench, whether it's colleagues, right, what professionals. It's the education of what's going on and what's really happening, and it's one of the reasons I like doing what I do. By the way. Because
Right.
I'm constantly learning. There's constantly new stuff.
it goes in waves. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what year. Like I was just talking. I don't know. well, I was talking about some of the seminars we go or
Right,
conferences
right.
we go to. And for a while there, like there were a lot of presentations and, and then it just went down.
Right.
And I don't know if the Supreme Court ruled some way where then that other opposing counsel said, Judge, you
Right,
can't talk about that anymore. Judge, like, yeah, you're right. Because
Right.
it went from here talking about it and
Right.
being interested in hearing therapists and psychologists to here.
Right.
And you know what I think would be so helpful? If you could have parents go to these judges' conferences or
Yeah.
even attorney conferences or get the word out there about a parent, hear from people on both sides of the, the story.
Right.
I think that's so important to hear from a
I think it's
person.
extremely important, and I want to say something to you, and I want to remind everybody too that's watching that very early on when we started the podcast, we had Rod McCall on, and Rod McCall has an amazing story. He's an amazing human being. First of all, he's a much better podcaster than I am, so that's we'll start there. Okay,
He's so good.
he
He's
really-
so good.
but he's an amazing human being, beyond words. And I'll let Rod's story speak for itself. But Rod has a book about his son Eric and the things that he went through. And I told him that day that my goal is to have every judge on the bench read at least the first handful of chapters, because the first handful of chapters of that book are some of the most educational and eye-opening of what could happen in these situations. And I'm like you. We need more of that. We need more parents in both sides. I'm not just trying to be dramatic. I think having a discussion on both sides.
Exactly.
But I want, at bare minimum, if I can get that out and do that, and we're trying. It's difficult, but we're trying to get that in front of them so they'll read it and they'll do it. And I'm not saying that they have to read it and then immediately say, okay, everything's PA and everything, you got to do it. That's not the
Awareness.
purpose.
But just to have the insight
Insight.
and know that it's out there.
As a backdrop,
Yeah, it's
right?
awareness.
Yeah.
So when I was on the bench, someone gave me a book, Dear Judge. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And it was like all it was kid letters.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know where they came from.
Right.
Dear Judge, you read some of those letters, like, Dear Judge, this is what I want. I want you to know. I didn't get to go to court today, talk to the judge, or my parents made this decision for me, but this is what I want you to know. And it was just when I was on the bench, I used to like Xerox a couple of those pages,
Right.
and give them to both sides and go, y'all need to read this.
Read this, yeah.
And I just remember one of them was like, oh, mommy or dad, I don't know which parent talks about, daddy so badly and says he's mean and ugly and he did this, he's going to get in trouble, he's going to go to jail, and he goes, and it said, I look in the mirror every day, or every day people tell me I look like my dad, so I look in the mirror every day and I say, this is a letter, am I going to be this way, Judge?
Wow.
And you're just like, oh my gosh. So
Wow.
that's really telling,
Wow.
and I don't think parents realize what they're doing.
And I don't, for a lot of parents, I don't think they're intentionally doing
Exactly.
bad things to hurt their kids. They're going through an emotional situation, right? They're grieving a loss of their life the way they thought it was going to be, the loss of this relationship,
Exactly.
having to share time with their child, with someone else.
But it's a parent.
They get tunnel vision.
I mean, you're sharing time, but it's like it's a parent. You're
Right.
not sharing time with some stranger or an aunt
Right.
But it's a parent. So,
Right.
and that's what always amazed me. Is this is a parent,
Right. Yeah. We always try to refocus everyone to the goal and making sure that, the kids are the ones that are the focus, but it's hard.
Do you still have that book?
I do.
All right.
I'm going to
All
send
right.
you.
I want a copy,
okay.
or at least I want to know
Okay.
who
I will.
all the stuff, because that's
Because it's almost like as an attorney, maybe I will do because it's real short.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you probably buy it on Amazon,
Yeah.
and I thought about giving it. I think I'm going to do that, giving it to all my clients that have
Right.
children, and just hey, when you're sleeping and I read a couple of these letters,
right.
Maybe it'll help.
I just think I think it's an interesting, any of those insights. That's fantastic. It's interesting that someone gave you a book, and I really that's sort of
And it was insightful.
that's a really organic thing that just happened there. That's really impressive. I like
We
that.
give all of our clients that have kiddos books.
Yeah.
They're the feelings books.
feelings books.
yeah.
To help them navigate.
Yeah.
Right. Help them
That's good.
understand, how, and I say it all the time. I say, we want you to be the best parent, best co-parent, you be the best litigant you can be. And I'm not going to tell you how to, raise little Johnny, little Susie. Lord knows that we're barely raising the two we got. And so, right. I mean, they're all right.
They're still walking around, right?
Right. Yeah, I think so. But, my point is, we want to help them. We want to give them the resources to be the best parent they can be. It's up to them what they do with it. And so, that's interesting. That's a man. That is,
And I've never heard of that book.
I haven't
before.
either. That's the thing.
I mean, it's not on the top seller list or
Yeah,
anything. It's
yeah.
similar. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
a judge gave it to me. I don't know,
Yeah.
but because it was to the judge, you
Yeah.
know, and didn't say what state or anything. But and it was interesting.
That's interesting.
It
A lot
sounds
of,
impactful.
Yeah.
a lot of them, do family trees, and it's
Right.
interesting because they draw the family tree and they leave out a parent.
And dad's not there.
And the
Yeah.
whole like that side, not just the parent, but the grandparent, that aunt, uncle,
Right.
or maybe the parent has a dog at their
Right,
house
right.
that they love, and they leave it out, and you can look at it and go, that's really interesting. I mean, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but that's got to say something.
It's saying a lot.
100%.
Yeah, it's saying a lot. I want to say a couple things real fast. First of all, I love this conversation. I love learning about what other jurisdictions and what other litigators and attorneys are doing. I've enjoyed this back and forth. It's been very insightful. I've got to ask a couple questions before we get out of here, though, real fast. Are you mad that we got Dr. Alvarez to come to Central Texas?
Yes. Y'all stole
You're-
her.
you're not
yes.
you're not getting her
I
back.
mean, like I walked in, it's like a ghost. I'm like, there you are.
Right. That's
In fact,
fantastic.
I got her car, and I'm like, would you, yeah.
That's
Yes.
fantastic.
Very upset about that.
We're keeping her. We're not going to give her back. So there's that. I do want to ask this quick question real fast. If people want to reach out to you, they want to contact you, they need help, particularly down in the Galveston area, Houston area, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I have a website, and
Okay.
it's Schwab, SCHWAB,
Okay.
RADCLIFFE.com.
Fantastic. And they can reach out to you, do that. You do active litigation. You also, by the way, we didn't even talk about it. We didn't have time, but you're also, you're a mediator. So you mediate these cases.
Yeah.
And then you also act as an amicus.
Yes, I represent children.
Fantastic.
And that's really interesting.
It's got to be an amazing perspective that we could probably talk for another 4 hours on. I got to tell you, I've enjoyed it, but more importantly, I'm so grateful and so thankful, so is Janice, that you came all the way here. I know it's what 4 hours, 3 hours, something like that.
3 hours.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much for doing it. Hopefully, we've given you enough hospitality. You'll come back at some point.
No,
So-
it was wonderful, and I just want to say thank you for doing this and
appreciate
getting
it.
it out there.
Yeah.
because it's we attorneys, we owe that to children.
Yeah,
You know,
I
parents
appreciate
can,
that.
but we owe it to the children.
I
So,
appreciate that. We really truly want to get this stuff out there and do the things, but more importantly, we enjoy the conversations about it. We really do. With that being said, guys, thank y'all for hanging out with us today. That's episode 19 here of Cases and Cocktails. We look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll continue to talk about content and some things regarding Parental Alienation Month here in the month of April. You good, Jay?
I'm good. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next Friday.
Thanks, guys.